You're listening to the Telltale Channel. In this podcast, if you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Dr. Phil is going on ICE raids right now, picking up immigrants and putting them in handcuffs and deporting them. So to decide if we should watch this, I want to lay out this moral question for you. In the 30s in Germany, people tend to ask the question, how much did people know? And the answer is everything. They knew everything. They knew about the concentration camps pretty much from day one. Some people after the war pretty convincingly said, I had no idea. I didn't know. I was in the dark. They knew. This is an excerpt from the book For the Soul of the People. Quote, when I told people about it, how often they said, please don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. I shouldn't know. Simply knowing was dangerous. One could betray oneself. One might express, without stopping to think, one's horror. That's why a great proportion of the people held this knowledge away from themselves. And after 1945, they could, in a subjective sense, correctly say, we didn't know, because they didn't want to know. That belongs to the principles of a regime of terror, and here they worked. The point is, they knew. Every step of the way, they knew. But they didn't want to know. You know why they didn't want to know what was happening in these camps? The government didn't want them to know. There'd be punishment for knowing. So in my opinion, we have a responsibility to know what is happening. In fact, it's probably the most important thing we can do. We can't do anything right now. We can't stop these ICE raids. We can't prevent any of this stuff. But we can know. And for that reason, I want to watch the Dr. Phil thing. It's important to remember what's happening here and to understand that the grotesque part of this is the entertainment value in it. People's lives are being destroyed right now, okay? From the top down, everything is falling apart. And Dr. Phil's turning it into entertainment. We at least have a responsibility to observe and understand and know. Dr. Phil started off with kind of an intro telling us how dangerous what he's doing is. So let me just pull it up, and we'll watch just a second or two of his intro, and then we'll watch the raid.
Back to our exclusive coverage of Dr. Phil on the ground in Chicago, embedded with ICE and border czar Tom Homan. This next arrest and
border czar Tom Homan is an absolute nutcase, a right-wing extremist, to my knowledge.
Involves an illegal immigrant from India who spent years in prison here in the U.S. for reckless homicide, but he was back on the streets until this. Take a look.
We're making another arrest right now. This is illegal alien that's been arrested for DUI with a fatality.
This guy is from where?
India.
India, here in Lakewood?
Yeah.
Let me just, let me point out what's happening here. I'm gonna, I want to contextualize what's happening here. I don't want to just play it without comment for entertainment purposes. I still feel it's important to kind of understand what's happening. In Germany, there's a guy named Julius Streicher. He owned something called Der Stürmer, which could mean the stormer or the striker, depending on, whatever. Just a word that means multiple things. And he used to make up heinous shit, disgusting shit about people and about situations and about like what Jews would do to people and stuff. Like I don't know if he's the one that came up with this, but he certainly popularized the belief that when a male mammal mates with a female mammal, the DNA of the male stays in the female in perpetuity. So every baby that the female mammal has past that point will have the DNA of the male, which is a justification for making Aryan women non-Aryan if they had ever been with a man who was Jewish or even quarter Jewish or whatever. he would claim that people were like doing vile shit, like he was anti-abortion. He would just make up shit about like babies being ripped from the womb and stuff like that. I mean, really disgusting, horrific, nasty shit. Like I said, make it up. He would make it up about people, fabricate it. None of it was true. And it would get popular enough that they would like go to these people's houses and they would arrest them for complete nonsense. Now, what Dr. Phil is doing here, he claims that it's criminals. It's not. It's not criminals that he's arresting or that he's going along to arrest. I know that for a fact, as we'll see in a little while. But even if it was, A, these people's lives don't need to be like made a spectacle of. And B, let them go through the legal system like everybody else. You're about to ruin these people's lives in ridiculous ways. Why do you need to make it worse? Let them go through the legal system. I don't want to deport criminals. I want to make sure that they serve time here so that they can't do this to other people. Keep them here in the United States. Don't deport them. Anyway, like I said, Dr. Phil is just fabricating this stuff about like this guy, for example. I don't know about this specific guy, but he absolutely for sure made shit up about at least a few of the people that they grabbed. So keep listening here.
He's here illegally right now.
Yep.
He's convicted of DUI with fatality.
A DUI with a fatality. So he was driving drunk and somebody died. Great. Then put him in jail. Why are you picking him up from his house right now? You know why he's picking him up from his house? Because he's an immigrant. That's it. Why are you even including that other shit? It's because he's an immigrant. The legal system is dealing with all that other shit.
So the question is, why is he still here?
Yeah, so
Because he's passing through the legal system, really.
frustrating.
And again, you know, Phil picked up people that aren't even immigrants. They're not even undocumented. Well, I don't know about Phil picking them up. I'm not sure, maybe. But ICE has been picking up people that are not undocumented, detaining them for hours, days, show them your ID. They say that's not good enough. We're putting you in there anyway. Really. There are people standing out on the street asking for people's papers if they don't look right, quote unquote. I mean, that's what ICE is saying. If something doesn't look right, question them.
It's unbelievable. And they go to the door and they're on the other side and they know it and they don't open the door because they've been told, don't open the door.
We gotta get these laws passed.
Well, it might be like the camera crew. It might be the fake TV doctor. Maybe that's the thing that spooked them. Maybe it's a bunch of federal agents banging on the door. Could that maybe be the problem where they don't want to open the door? You think someone had to tell them not to open the door?
So these guys can work.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be able to do this.
And look at all the people that it takes to do it.
It didn't take that many people to do it, okay?
As you're seeing, these
They're framing them up like criminals. Like I said, the people that Phil is getting, not all of them are criminals. Many of them are just like normal people, just living their lives, doing their thing. And their only transgression is that they're not from here originally or that they aren't documented. And for the record, being undocumented is not a criminal offense. They're not criminals by default. Also, one more thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to earlier. When you hear them use the word alien, be aware that that is the word that Hitler used to refer to Jews to dehumanize them. They're undocumented immigrants. They're not illegal. Well, I guess in the strictest, most technicalist sense, maybe they're illegal in the same sense that I'm illegal if I get a parking ticket. And like I miss my court date or something. I'm illegal now. That's me being illegal. They're undocumented. Not illegal. And they're not aliens, they're human beings. Illegal alien or illegal immigrant are colloquial terms that everybody is used to now. That was very intentional. Do not let people get away with that.
ICE operations are highly organized and they're run out of command centers across the country.
Yeah, Dr. Phil takes us inside this top secret facility in Chicago for a behind the scenes look at a high level briefing. Take a look.
Like, for the record, to my knowledge, I could be wrong. I believe that all of the people that they're picking up right now were already like scheduled to be picked up, many of them, like before Trump. But he's accelerating it. Here are the things that I have a problem with. He's accelerating it, and he's making a spectacle out of it intentionally, out of people's suffering, and he's dehumanizing them. He's turning them into illegal aliens rather than human beings. Trump has been sending people in handcuffs on military planes rather than how they normally go, which is on civilian planes. So Colombia rejected some of the deportations. The Colombian president said, you're going to send them with dignity, like human beings. And of course, we will accept them. And then Trump tried to get in a trade war with Colombia. Mexico did it too. They rejected some of the people, some of the deportations or whatever. The problem isn't the deportations necessarily. Some people need to be deported, but honestly, I don't think so. I think that we should allow more people in. We should grant amnesty. We should add them to our economy because it grows an economy to have more workers in it. But that's an argument for another day. If you're going to deport them, you should treat them like human beings. And Dr. Phil and Donald Trump are not doing that.
I'm in a command center in Chicago, and I'm here with Tom Homan and some team members we're going to introduce here in just a second. And we're in the command center because we've actually got two very dangerous situations that are happening simultaneously, and kind of one surges ahead of the other, and then we're not sure which one's going down first. So we're kind of on pins and needles right now because they're very dangerous situations.
They're really not. They're really not dangerous situations. These people are not in jail because because that's where they are in the legal process. The judicial system saw fit to let them out. And trust me, the judicial system doesn't just let any old person out, okay? You have to have money to get out. You have to be respectable. You have to be a part of the community for them to let you out a lot of the time. Every now and then somebody falls through the cracks, but it's not a result of being Mexican that they fall through the cracks.
So we're monitoring those and going back and forth. And Mr. Holman, tell us what we're looking at here on this map and what these targets represent here.
Well, look, as we discussed earlier, we want to show American people this is a targeted enforcement operation, right? It's not the sweeping of the neighborhoods. It's not looking for people different than us. Every person we look for, we know who they are. We know what their immigration record is. We know what their criminal record is.
That's not true. Let me give you some proof here that they don't necessarily know who they're picking up. This is not an outlier. This has actually happened multiple times. Trump immigration raids snag U.S. citizens, including Native Americans, raising racial profiling fears. American citizens, including citizens of native tribal nations. You know what? I'm going to let my audio reader read it for me.
American citizens, including citizens of native tribal nations, have been pulled into the vast immigration operations ordered by President Donald Trump in accordance with his campaign vow to conduct mass deportations since day one. Those who are getting caught in immigrations and customs enforcement raids are being targeted because of their race or skin color, according to witnesses.
Immigration, customs, and enforcement is ICE.
Those who are
Yeah, ICE has only existed for I think since 9/11 maybe?
Those who are getting caught in immigrations and customs enforcement raids are being targeted because of their race or skin color, according to witnesses. The Navajo Nation office was flooded with calls from tribal members living off reservation, with many reporting being questioned about their identity by ICE officers, Native News Online reported. Questioning of Navajo Nation citizens, who are American citizens, by ICE has been problematic enough that Navajo President Bu Nigren took to the airwaves to address it. On tribal radio station KTNN, Nigren said he had received accounts of negative and sometimes traumatizing encounters between ICE and Navajo Nation citizens, Native News Online reported.
So tell me again, Dr. Phil, and whatever the hell propagandist you're working with here, tell me again how these people this is targeted, exactly who you're picking up, and there are no questions, and blah, blah, blah. Tell me that again, one more time, please.
Neighborhoods. It's not looking for people different than us. Every person we look for, we know who they are. We know what their immigration record is. We know what their criminal record is.
That's just a flat-out, bald-faced lie that he just told, and Phil is giving him his platform to allow the lie to be told.
Questioning of Navajo Nation citizens, who are American citizens, by ICE has been problematic enough that Navajo President Bu Nigren took to the airwaves. He advised Navajo Nation residents to carry identification, driver's licenses, and their certificate of Indian blood. NBC News reached out to ICE regarding the detaining and questioning of Navajo Nation citizens and complaints of racial profiling, and has not yet received a response. One of the employees detained and questioned by ICE at a seafood wholesaler during an immigration raid in Newark, New Jersey, was a U.S. citizen and military veteran. Newark Mayor Ross Baraka denounced the...
So let me explain what's happening. They haven't said it yet. They may say it in a minute, but Phil basically says, we are finding specific people that we know were, ran up their visa or something, overstayed it. And when we arrive, we find other Mexicans nearby. So we question every Mexican that passes. We question everybody that has dark skin because they may know the person. And when they say question, they mean detain. They detain them and arrest them in some cases. And it even happened to a U.S. veteran.
Regarding the raid, ICE stated they may encounter U.S. citizens while conducting field work and may request identification to establish an individual's identity. The seafood wholesaler's owner, Luis Yanoda, told WPIX in New York that his warehouse manager, who was also detained, was Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and its residents are U.S. citizens.
Let me tell you why this isn't okay, why it's not acceptable. This exact scenario played out in Germany. Identical. This is how it started in Germany. This is absolutely unacceptable. I don't want to live in an environment where I have to show people my papers. That's where we are. Show me your papers. This is not an acceptable situation.
Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory and its residents are U.S. citizens. It looked to me like they were specifically going after certain kinds of people, not every kind. Because they did not ask me for documentation for my American workers, Portuguese workers, or white workers, Yanoda told the station. More deportations, worries over increased profiling. ICE has stepped up arrests and deportations since Trump took office. While he had said he would prioritize violent criminals, his border czar, Tom Homan, also said this week that...
Tom Homan, that's who we were watching with Phil.
While he had said he would prioritize violent criminals, his border czar, Tom Homan, also said this week that arrests of undocumented immigrants without criminal convictions, which the administration calls collateral arrests, would occur.
Collateral arrests. Arrests of undocumented immigrants without criminal convictions. Collateral arrests. Well, they may not have actually violated any laws. They may just be members of the community. In fact, they may even be U.S. citizens. But it's collateral. That's how it works. I don't even know what word to use to describe how dystopian and horrific this is, honestly. Again, I don't want to go down this whole road of arguing in favor of immigration, as I've been down it a billion times, but I will just say this. Immigration is phenomenally good for a country. There is one reason why people would not want immigrants in the country.
While he had said he would prioritize violent criminals, his border czar, Tom Homan, also said this week that arrests of undocumented immigrants without criminal convictions, which the administration calls collateral arrests, would occur. On Sunday, almost half of the people arrested, 48%, had nonviolent offenses on their record or were people who had not committed any offense. Being in the U.S. without legal status is a civil violation.
You can't be arrested
Entering the
for
country.
that. I'm sorry. You can't be arrested for that is the point, because it's a civil violation. It's like a speeding ticket. They're arresting people for the equivalent of a speeding ticket.
Entering the country without inspection, between ports of entry or based on false statements, what is considered illegal entry, is a misdemeanor. Re-entering, or attempting to re-enter, is a felony. The criteria for who is arrested and deported will soon be expanded, however. A bill awaiting Trump's signature, the Laken-Riley Act, will allow the arrest and detention of people who are not legally in the country and have been charged. They do not have to be convicted, with burglary, theft, larceny, shoplifting, or crimes that lead to death or serious bodily injury. Recommended Asian America The Year of the Snake is all about shedding that bad energy Western wildfire.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I'm good.
When you don't have enforcement priorities, everyone is subject to detention, said Rosanna Eugenio, legal director at the New York Immigration Coalition. It also creates this situation that leads to increased profiling. How do you tell that someone does not have legal status in this country or is in the process of seeking legal status? You can't tell that by looking at someone.
You can, however, tell that somebody is Mexican by looking at them, or at least a lot easier than other qualities. We are in show me your papers territory now. That is where we are. And to make matters worse, they're making it easier to legally demand somebody's papers or get arrested. We have got to watch for that. We need to be aware of what's happening. We must keep track of this, and we cannot look away. We must pay attention. It is our moral obligation to watch what happens next. No matter how ugly or boring or whatever it happens to get, we must watch. Now let's continue with Phil.
We know pretty much where we're going to find them. So hundreds and hundreds of hours of investigative work went to this.
We've been out today, and we've been around this grid in cars with the agents. We've taken footage of your brave men and women going and taking some of these targets into custody. We've got others that are in their houses now waiting for warrants. We know where they are.
Waiting for warrants. Wow. So up to now, they haven't been bothering with warrants? They've been going in without warrants? States, I'm not sure when they're going to say this or if they say it in this video, but states, they've been trying to go in to state prisons and grab people. And the states have been saying, you need to give us a warrant before you come in here doing anything at all. And Phil is bitching about that. What, you don't want to protect the country? You don't want us safe from violent criminals? We're here to help you. The states, I honestly can't even believe they're doing the right thing by demanding a warrant in the first place, but here we are. You shouldn't be doing anything without a warrant, Phil. You shouldn't be doing anything anyway. You're a TV doctor. But the border czar shouldn't be operating without a warrant.
And there's a lot of investigative work that goes in to what's represented by each of these marks here. What we're talking about is taking dangerous people out of the community, which makes the community safer when those people are taken out of that community.
Really? Okay. Then why are states fighting so hard to prevent you from checking people's papers or taking people away? Why are they fighting so hard if you're doing them a favor? I don't understand.
Right? Absolutely. So you've got, because today, Mr. Trump, we looked at some targets. I think the first two were child predators. They had been convicted of child sexual assaults.
Again, I'm not defending these people. Some of them need to, be in custody. But I don't believe that deportation is the solution. It should not be considered the solution. The solution should be jail time. Why aren't you putting them in jail? Why are you sending them to another country where they could maybe re-enter the United States if they wanted, or just hurt others? Why are you allowing this by deporting? Send them through our legal system. I would bet the answer to my question, why aren't you whatever, is because these people are already going through our legal system, and they weren't found guilty of these charges, or they served their time, or they're not as bad as they claim, or whatever other thing. I would bet money that Phil is completely full of shit here.
And they're walking around in the community.
Look, I think we got 6 or 7 sexual predators. We got 2 murderers. We got a lot of TDA gang members. So, yeah,
a lot of... Oh, did he say gang members? Is that what it was? Gang members?
One is a public safety threat, walking the streets of Chicago.
I didn't know that you could go to prison for being a gang member, for being affiliated with a gang. That's interesting. Just for saying, hey, I'm in a gang, you can go to prison for that? For that matter, did they admit to this? There's no due process here. None. They're suspending people's due process because they want to. Because they don't want them in the country anymore, and they're coming up with excuses to violate people's civil rights. The Republican Party is on this kick right now where they say only U.S. citizens are entitled to constitutional protections. What is wrong with you? Either they're human rights or they're not, first of all. And second, the Constitution was written that way specifically and intentionally to grant rights to every human being. It says in the Declaration of Independence, rights are granted by God, i.e., outside of government. Government is not giving you these rights. You have them inherently as a human, and government is forbidden from taking them away. That's how the U.S. Constitution was written. But these people don't care about that. You know why? Because they're fascists. That's why. Because they're looking for an opportunity to step into the show me your papers stage, and they've found it.
Because we're in a sanctuary city. And the men and women of ICE cannot grab these guys in a county jail when they're released. They're released back in the community, which forces us to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours of investigative work to find them.
Right. And when we
Like, if they were really a problem in society, they would reveal themselves. You don't have to spend time or money finding them. The community will out them. The state will find them. If for no other, or if by no other means than just through regular arrests for breaking laws and stuff, they'll find them. Again, the states are trying to protect people from this. They're saying, we want a warrant. You can't just come in and take these people. This is fascist propaganda, and Phil is letting this happen. In fact, he is aiding it.
rolled up on some of these, there were like 5 or 6 cars, multiple agents in each car, some on the perimeters, making sure that everybody was safe. So even then, there were multiple agents, and some of these were multiple hours, making sure everybody was safe, make sure the neighbors were safe, and make sure...
Like, the neighbors were perfectly fine. You didn't have to do any of this shit. Leave people alone.
that the target was safe.
The target? Who the fuck is the target in this situation? Who do you think the target is? What are you talking about?
So much manpower goes into these operations. I don't think most people realize what happens by.
No, I realize how many tax dollars go into this whole thing. You know, Donald Trump talks about conservative spending, fiscal responsibility, and all that shit. Well, I don't know if Trump talks about it, but the Republican Party certainly does. When they're spending money like this, when they're spending it on stupid shit. Trump told us he was going to go into people's homes. He was going to work on a local level and get the police to report on people. You know, matter of fact, the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan, came out with a flyer recently that's apropos. Here you go. KKK flyer. Leave now. Self-deport. Avoid detention. Americans on guard. Help us protect our homeland. Trinity White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. If you support these types of civil rights violations, you have aligned yourself with the Ku Klux Klan. You hold the same positions and are even voting for the same guy that the KKK votes for. Can we all agree the KKK is a racist organization? Can we agree on that one? I would like to think we can agree on that. Now, if they're a racist organization and you perfectly align with their goals and interests, what does that make your goals and interests? I'm just trying to take step by step, walk people through. Now let's watch the one that got like this whole thing super famous.
First, Dr. Phil is joining border czar Tom Homan on an ICE operation in the sanctuary city of Chicago.
Sanctuary city, FYI, what that means is if the police are called, they will not ask for your immigration status. The reason that is a good policy to have is because it encourages people to call the police when they're in a battered woman situation, or when there's a crime of some sort, somebody being taken advantage of. Hell, a kid who is undocumented is being taken advantage of in the United States. The mom won't call the police for fear that the kid will be deported, and she will be deported. And now this guy has the free reign to take advantage of this kid forever, because if they report it to the police, she will be deported, the mom will be deported, everybody be deported. That's what sanctuary cities are, what they're for. That's why people do it, so that crime is reported and people don't live in fear that there will be consequences for reporting that. Sanctuary cities decrease crime dramatically, but they're putting a big focus on how sanctuary cities are bad and causing problems for society, and how Chicago regrets being a sanctuary city, but those damn Democrats keep pushing the sanctuary city stuff. Get help.
Really is a high-stakes ride-along as they make their first arrest, an illegal immigrant with a criminal rap sheet.
Again, illegal immigrant? You mean undocumented? If he is in criminal trouble right now, put him in jail. Don't deport him. Don't give him an opportunity to come back. Don't give him an opportunity to walk free in another country. They don't mean that he's in criminal trouble. They mean they don't like, or they mean he may or may not have served time in the past. He may or may not have actually done this thing.
Watch this.
When they come out, they should know what his current immigration status is and they arrest him.
Yeah.
Wow, dead silence in this car.
What's the fastest he's likely to be deported if he's fast-tracked? I mean, if he's here illegally, if he's got pending charges against him,
If. Shouldn't you have all these answers already, like before going to this place? The thing is, he doesn't have pending charges against him. By and large, these people don't. They said a rap sheet. That doesn't mean pending charges. That means at best they probably, served time in the past or did something they shouldn't have in the past, but it was dealt with. If they had pending charges, they would be in the legal system already.
if those things are all,
Well, if he has pending charges, the office will work with local prosecutors office to make sure they don't want him, they want to take him back into custody through a writ, we can give it to him, but.
How about that? You hear that? Interesting. You're telling me if these people have pending charges, if they're dealing with the legal system right now, then they need to stay there, right? Is that what you're telling me? They need to be where they are? Local prosecutors need to handle this? And we'll work with them to give them custody so the guy stays after all? Huh. If they have pending charges, they need to stay where they are. You shouldn't be going after people with pending charges. You shouldn't be giving them an opportunity to possibly maybe get out of those charges by sending them elsewhere.
Yeah. Many times the local.
I can't believe I'm saying this. This is the most obvious shit on planet Earth, isn't it?
Prosecutors just say, what? Just deport him. It's going to be a cost savings to taxpayers, and deporting is probably worse than what each one ends up getting for a conviction anyways. So if he...
Deporting them is worse than what they'd get for a conviction. He basically said, we're talking about murderers, people that might get the death penalty. Deporting them is worse than what he would get for being a murderer. Or even, someone who takes advantage of children. Deporting him would be worse than spending the rest of his life in prison, in federal prison. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you that you would say such a thing, that you would think such a thing? What broke in your head that got you there? We must stare this down. We cannot look away. Morally, we must watch this.
He's a Mexican national, Central American national. He's got an order removed. We can remove in a couple of days. If it's a more difficult country, it could be weeks or months, depending on what country he's from.
yeah.
Some of the document, they got to accept he's a national of the country, and sometimes that takes anywhere from a few days for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Why did they include this dead silent part? I don't understand.
What are we doing with these countries that say they just won't take them back?
Keep them detained, I would guess, right? At ICE facilities, concentration camps, if you will. Camps where they are concentrated in high numbers. That's what a concentration camp is, by the way. Death camp and concentration camp aren't the same thing. Concentration camps had labor. They were labor camps, by and large. They sent people out to work in the hot sun to, sometimes break rocks, sometimes build munitions for the war effort or whatever it was. And that's actually 100% completely and totally legal in the United States also. The amendment that abolished slavery in the United States left an exception for prisoners. You can make prisoners slave laborers in the U.S. legally. And they do all the time. I remember Bloomberg famously, Michael Bloomberg in 2016 primaries, he was running, I believe. He used prison slave labor to I don't remember. Do some of the tedious menial work that his campaign required because it was dirt cheap. Pay him like $3 a day to the prison. And the prison might pay the people $1 a day if they are lucky. Some of them don't get jack shit. The point is that the answer to the question is you would put these people in a concentration camp where they may or may not act as slave labor. It just depends on the camp. It's like truly, really horrific, disgusting shit to a degree that I cannot articulate. Like, I don't want people to underestimate how real this is. This is real.
Well, we're working on that right now. The difference from the last administration, this administration, you got President Trump, who's a strong president.
A strong president.
And I really truly believe we'll get these countries to take them back because he would demand they take them back. The Biden administration didn't make those demands.
This is just fascist propaganda is what we're listening to. It's propaganda designed to further fascist goals by fascists for fascists. Hell, they gave a fascist salute behind the presidential seal at Inauguration Day, okay? It's fascist.
You know, under the first Trump administration, Mexico didn't want to remain in the Mexico program, but they did it. El Salvador didn't want to take MS-13 members back, but they did it because President Trump put pressure on them. So,
oh, please. This whole thing about Trump being stronger than Biden or whatever is bullshit. It's all bullshit. You know that Biden was more respected than Donald Trump by 1.5 miles, and more often than not got what he needed done because people respected him. Because the U.S. was, at least at the moment, for a short time, respectable. Donald Trump is a fucking moron, and everybody knows that he's a moron, and they're embarrassed by him. Instead of working with Trump to accomplish common goals the way that happened with Biden, Europe is literally threatening to go to war with the United States if the U.S. does what Trump is claiming he wants to do, which is to take Greenland by force. By the way, this is exactly what Vladimir Putin wanted, this kind of chaos, FYI.
I got all the faith in the world President Trump will do it again. And if they don't, we already got other countries willing to step up and take them. So it'll be a third state country removal.
You know, to my knowledge, more people were coming into the United States in Trump's last month, at the very least, than were coming into the U.S. under Biden every month. It's not like Trump had some unique special ability to, like, prevent whatever from happening. This is just total nonsense. It's fascist propaganda that doesn't represent reality in any way. I used to avoid using the word fascist because, you know, it's kind of ridiculous at a certain point. It's like a college professor wearing patches on his elbows, calling everybody a fascist. That's kind of the view I get when somebody calls other people fascist, but not anymore. That's where we are. This is it. This is what we're doing. This is fascism right here.
So if somebody refuses, there's somewhere we can send them. Then what do they do with them?
Well, he's talking about third-party play. Yeah, I think they send them to El Salvador to wait while their cases are processed. You know, if Trump really wanted to deal with this, he could, you know, get like a bunch of immigration judges to handle their cases. Instead, he's depriving them of due process. He's not giving them the option to have an immigration judge review their case, or like a refugee judge. I mean, it's the same thing, but somebody that'll review the case of a refugee, of somebody seeking asylum. If they're seeking asylum, they're not here illegally, which is the vast majority of people that cross the border. A lot of immigrants come in legally. Most immigrants come in legally with visas from, you know, other countries. Refugees are coming in through the border, by and large.
Well, they'll them, you know, repatriate their country. We're working with 2 or 3 countries right now that agree to take nationals from other countries, working the final details now to come to an agreement.
Yeah. Will they incarcerate them?
Depending on their criminal history.
Yeah.
So the answer is no. If they're just normal if they're normal immigrants, they will not incarcerate them. They'll keep track of them and they will be given like information about their case and stuff. But they're not criminals. If they're criminals, then they won't deport them almost, or they shouldn't at the very least. they should keep them in our prisons to guarantee they don't come back or they don't get out of it or whatever. Really.
But they're
Just dead silence.
gone from here.
Excuse me.
How do you get out?
Yeah, I'll go.
There we go. So,
Ready for these people to profit off of human misery?
from where?
Right here.
No, where's he from?
Oh, believe him. Where are you from, man? Well, where were you born in?
Thailand.
Thailand?
Yeah.
Okay, prior to deport, sex offender.
Sex offender.
Child or
Okay, I don't hang on. I'm confused about this. One second. Let me just try to jump forward. Hold on.
Theta.
Seda what? You have a person last name.
Sam.
Seda Sam?
Yes.
where are you from?
Where I was born or where I'm from?
Where I was born or where I'm from. He's got flawless English. He's American. His skin color isn't the same as yours. That is the only difference. He's American.
Where are you born?
Thailand.
Thailand, I think he said. He's from America. He was born in Thailand.
You been deported before from the United States?
No.
Never been deported.
But I've been in the system before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been charged with
Charge where?
before?
I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm gonna talk to my lawyer.
Good. I'm not going to stand here and deal. Let me text my lawyer. Is that what he said? Good. Good. Absolutely. That's what he should have said. He's saying the right thing. Dr. Phil is profiting off of human misery with this. You notice everybody's face is blurred except for his. I would bet money that Phil didn't bother blurring his face because he didn't give a fuck if he has this, if he has his permission to do this. He's going to be gone in a few weeks anyway, never to be seen again. So why even bother asking for permission?
Yeah. Are you a citizen?
My mom said that.
His mom is a citizen. He's born in Thailand. So it sounds to me like what happened was dude's mom was overseas when he was born. It's kind of like John McCain was born in Panama, but his mom was a U.S. citizen. So he got citizenship. I think he might have been on like he was on a military base, a U.S. military base, which I guess is technically U.S. soil, I think. Ted Cruz was born in Canada, but his mom's a citizen. And that means he has the right to run for president, I guess, because he's a natural born citizen if his mom is a U.S. citizen. But they're not giving the same grace to this guy. Could just as easily be Ted Cruz. He's in the exact situation. What is wrong with somebody that would do this?
Your mother's a citizen,
Yes.
but you're not.
Didn't he just fucking say that? He said, let me text my lawyer. And Phil is still harassing the dude.
Nope.
But you've never been deported before?
You Dr. Phil. You look like Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Now he's trolling him. Yeah, I recognize you. You're Dr. Phil.
How do you know me?
How the f*** do you think? He's a U.S. citizen, effectively, in practice. He's lived here for long enough that he's watched daytime TV and watched trash TV just like the rest of us. He recognizes your stupid ass because you're on every daytime channel. How do you know me? Like he just slipped over the border to like build a private army here in the U.S. Hasn't heard of Dr. Phil until just a few minutes ago. Like, come on, man. You know, this is one of the big reasons why people want these deportations in the first place, like why Trump supporters want them, because they believe that they're building a private military that's going to replace white people. Really, it's delusion all the way down.
No, I seen Dr. Phil, on TV.
Yeah.
Flawless English.
Yeah.
Well, this is an example of sanctuary cities, right? We got an illegal.
What, sanctuary cities? An example of sanctuary cities where people are protected from deportation if they report crimes? You're telling me that you are upset that cities are trying to encourage crime reports? What broke in you? Really?
convicted of sex crimes involving children.
Again, I don't know about that. I have no idea, but that's not why they're here. He paid his price. If he's not in prison right now, he paid his price. Otherwise, he would be in prison.
He's walking the streets of Chicago. Again, the downfall, the problem with the sanctuary city, that people like us walking the street rather than law enforcement working with federal agents. This is what we're dealing with.
It has nothing to do with it being a sanctuary city. Non-sanctuary cities are more dangerous because people are afraid to report crimes. If this weren't a sanctuary city, this guy may not have had whatever reported in the first place, if he really is a criminal, which I'm having trouble believing.
Yeah. You've been charged with sex crimes with children?
Not really.
Not really?
None of your f***ing business, and it certainly isn't the business of Dr. Phil's millions of watchers. This is out there now. This has been covered by everybody and their brother at this point, and I'm doing what I can to try to reverse the damaging effects that it had. I have no idea if Phil or the Borders or whatever are even telling the truth here about this person. And again, either way, if they are, his debts have been paid or he wouldn't be out here right now.
And never been deported?
Nope.
Huh.
Let's take him in, process him, lock him up.
Got it, sir. All right. We get a transport.
Lock him up for what? Why are you locking him up? I thought you said that the crime that he had committed was old, that it had already been like adjudicated or whatever. What happened to that? Are you just like ruining this poor dude's life for no fucking reason right now?
Working on it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The arrogance of these guys is...
The arrogance? That was arrogance? I'm sorry, I missed something. Where was the arrogance? Dude said, I want my lawyer. Is that arrogance now? I didn't know it was arrogant to ask for a lawyer when you're in a legal situation. These people are broken inside.
astounding to me.
Solicitation of sex with a minor. He's a predator, computer.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, wait, one more time? I'm doubting literally everything out of their mouths because this is purely just propaganda. But I'm going to try to listen to what they said here one more time.
This is astounding to me.
Solicitation of sex with a minor. He's a predator, computer.
A predator computer? I don't understand what that means.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, the arrogance of these guys is just astounding. Well, at least he was a Dr. Phil fan.
Yeah. I know you were.
Jeez. Do we know what country he's from? What did he say?
Thailand.
Huh? Thailand?
Thailand. We got good relationships with Thailand.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't take us long.
That's it. It's over now. You are a monster, Dr. Phil. You are a monster. To do some of the shit that he does, that is monstrously evil shit. Profiting off people's suffering. We can't say we didn't know. We don't have that now. We know. We know what's happening. People won't be able to hide under a rock or pretend they were in the dark. We know. And if we see an opportunity, we need to do what we can to stop it from happening in the future. Anything. It's a book called And the Witnesses Were Silent by Wolfgang Gerlach, edited by Victoria J. Barnett. Written in like the 70s or the 80s about how the church treated Jews in the 30s in Germany. And in the book, it says here, guy talking about what it was like in the heat of it, in the thick of things, when there's very little that you could actually do to change the situation. He says, Leo Baek later spoke on the anonymous instances of secret aid. To help the Jews was at times the only way in which a German was able to express his opposition to the Nazis. During the final years, a countess visited me every Friday in my apartment in order to bring me vegetables, which were not available with Jewish food ration cards. Some Jews had food ration cards if they were privileged Jews, like they had fought in World War I, for example. The rest were, down the line, sent to concentration camps and eventually death camps, obviously. But the privileged ones were allowed to live just in squalor, just in a terrible situation. Occasionally, I found a basket of fruit from nameless benefactors before my door. In the crowded streetcar one Sunday, an unknown man came very near to me and asked, "Is Tiergarten next?" Then he added in a whisper, "I'm from the country and I've put a few eggs in your pocket." Another time, one man on the street let an envelope fall, picked it up, and held it out to me with the words, "You've lost something." The envelope contained a packet of food ration cards. If we can do nothing else, we should at least be doing this. If all other avenues of help are lost to us, if our hands are tied, we can at least do this to help the people around us. We're coming up on a situation where we're going to rely heavily on local communities. We have to operate within local communities on a granular level to help the people around us, to make sure that people are safe and that they're doing okay. And this is going to be part of the process right here. Get familiar with the people in your neighborhood and find ways to help them. When there's nothing else left, there's still that. And I guess we should probably start carrying our papers, shouldn't we? Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Kash Patel's book, The Plot Against the King. It's about Donald Trump. Once upon a time, in the land of the free, there lived a wizard called Kash, the Distinguished Discoverer. Okay, I was expecting a rhyme. Good job on that one. Kash was known far and wide as the one person who could discover anything about anything. He found the holy grape deep in the enchanted forest, and he discovered who had stolen the sleeping princess. The holy grape? What is a holy grape supposed to be? I don't understand. I'm trying to get it. What would that be in this context? The heralds, who spread important news across the land with their herald trumpets, had sung of Kash's fame ever since he figured out that the Russians were cheating in the jousting tournaments. Wait, so the Russians cheated in the jousting tournament? Like, I'm trying so hard to understand here. This type of childhood propaganda is grotesque, by the way. And look, you've got the hammer and sickle, the symbol of communism, associated with, like, black and evil. But all these quests had been easy for Kash, and as the sun rose and set over the land of the free, Kash found himself in grave danger, not of trolls or ogres, but of getting bored. That is, until the choosing day. Okay, this is ridiculous. On choosing day, the whole land gathered at the castle to choose the next ruler of the kingdom. The heralds had been announcing that Hillary Queenton would be queen. She says queenly things like thee and thou and forsooth, and her last name is Queenton after all. But when the royal counter-uppers counted up the final votes, they realized the people had dared to choose the merchant Donald. The merchant. The heralds, I guess that's like the capitalist, right? That's the equivalent of the capitalist. The heralds and Hillary were horrified. Donald didn't care what the heralds said about him, and he was determined to make the kingdom great again. Thus, King Donald moved into the castle, and everyone turned to head home. But before the people could leave, a herald jumped onto his head to make a proclamation. "Wait," he proclaimed through his herald trumpet. "Listen to what his noble knight has to say." Then a shifty-looking knight jumped onto the stand. "Donald isn't the rightful king inside the steel box. I have found a paper that says Donald cheated his way to the throne." Okay, I feel like these are going to be rhymes, and then they end up not being rhymes. This is, like, really bad. All the people gasped, "We're shocked! How could he do such a thing?" Apparently, said the shifty knight, Donald made friends with the Russians while drinking cherry ginger ale in the Swirly Tower Tavern in Rashonia, and they helped him cheat. All of the people nodded. The heralds must be right. After all, they have loud trumpets and important pieces of paper. King Donald must be a cheater. And so, even though they hadn't looked at all the facts, everyone agreed that King Donald was a cheater. Everyone except for Duke Devon of the King's Court. Devon Nunes? I'm not sure who he's referring to here specifically. Devon Nunes was a senator, I think, or a congressman otherwise, and he quit Congress to be the CEO of Troth Central or whatever Trump calls it. Duke Devon had known Donald for years, and he couldn't imagine the king had cheated. The Duke was loyal to the core, which is why Cash was not at all surprised when he walked through Cash's front door. I feel like there was supposed to be a rhyme in here, but there wasn't. Cash, said the distressed Duke, I am distressed. You don't say. I know these terrible, tragical, tangleful rumors cannot be true of King Donald, but the heralds keep saying that they're true. It must be a plot against the king. That's a very serious thing to say, said Cash seriously. What does King Donald think about all this? He calls them all fake heralds, shrugged the Duke, but I must know what really happened. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they worked together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, let's continue. We can't decide if they're right or wrong until we know all the facts. And if you're looking for facts, you came to the right place. Looking for facts, you came to the right place. Cash put on his wizard hat. I am the distinguished discoverer, so I can discover anything about anything. I'll help you on one condition. I must share the truth with everyone, no matter what I find. Of course, said Duke Devon, and so they set out on the quest for the truth about the plot against the king. This is children's propaganda, similar to Julius Streicher's propaganda for children. This is just disgusting. I'm sure you've probably heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about abortions and what goes along with getting abortions incorrectly, talking about ripping the baby out and ripping the mother out, all that stupid shit. It's all made up. That is not what happens. She has no idea how any of this works and doesn't care. She just wants to make it up. In 1933, there's a guy named Julius Streicher. Julius Streicher was what was known as a Jew baiter, quote unquote. He owned a magazine called the Stormer. Der Stürmer is what it was called. In this magazine, he just make things up about people. He claimed that if a male mammal mates with a female mammal, the DNA from the male mammal will stay in the female mammal forever until it dies. And every child it sires from that moment on will have the DNA of the first male mammal that it was with. And that was the justification for classifying any woman that was married to a non-Aryan man, quote unquote, as non-Aryan herself. And he would say vile stuff, like exactly how Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about it. Streicher used his magazine to get people whipped into a blood frenzy and willing to murder people for the things that he said, for the claims that he made. Julius Streicher was one of the people that was executed in the Nuremberg trials. Streicher also wrote children's books, interestingly enough. For their first stop, Cash and Devon visited the Shifty Knight and his herald friends. I'm absolutely sure that Sir Trump is a cheater, the Shifty Knight said. I found the paper that proves it right here in this steel box. But when Cash looked into the box, he found a long, sticky, silvery streak of slime. Okay. Ah, Devon said, I've seen this one before. He and Cash hurried to the slug stables in a shadowy corner of the castle. The keeper of the slugs, named Keeper Comey, was in charge of delivering all the king's secret messages, but on his desk, Cash spotted a suspicious letter. Comey, of course, being James Comey, the head of the FBI under Trump, under his first term. Dear Comey, most sincerely I thank thee for the services of delivering my papers with thine slugs to the steel box so sneakily. Forsooth, in all the land shall not be found a deceiver so daring or so devious. All my love, Hillary Quinton. Yeah, except this didn't happen. This is fictitious. To set the record straight, Russia did actually interfere with the 2016 election. They absolutely did. And Donald Trump absolutely did cooperate with Russia and work with them to make that happen. There is no question. However bad you think it was worse. If you read the Mueller report, you will find all kinds of people in Trump's inner circle implicated, including Donald Trump himself. But Mueller recommended against charging Trump with that because he didn't believe that a president could be indicted. And in my opinion, they should be able to be indicted, but it would cause a constitutional crisis. So anyway, James Comey was on Trump's side, worked with Trump against Hillary Clinton. But the fact that Comey investigated Russia, not Trump, Russia, for interfering in the 2016 election in the first place, that was enough to get him fired and hated. You know why there was even a question in the first place? Because Donald Trump, let me rephrase, because the FBI and the CIA and NSA, they have people that they track. They wiretap people from time to time, like known spies in the U.S., for example. They wiretap them and they listen to their conversations. And weirdly, these known spies, the ambassador to Russia and people like that, were getting phone calls from Donald Trump's campaign team. Like from Don Jr., they're calling in and talking to these known spies all of a sudden. And it's like, what the hell's happening right now? What is this? Why are they doing this? That's what rose red flags for people. Either way, no matter how you slice it, Russia absolutely did interfere in the 2016 election beyond a shadow of a doubt. Did anybody say Trump should be removed from the presidency? Nobody was saying that. I mean, it was wishful thinking, maybe, but nobody believed that was actually going to happen. It was about trying to fortify our media and our other systems so that they couldn't be manipulated by foreign governments so easily. That was the point. Anyway, in this book, I guess Kash Patel is portraying a scenario where Hillary Clinton worked with James Comey to lie, to collude with the two of them, to lie about Donald Trump working with Russia. Aha, cried Kash, now we know where the mysterious rumor came from. All we have left is to discover whether or not Hillary Clinton is lying. Okay, it's just whether Hillary Clinton is lying, not whether or not, but whatever. That very evening, Kash and Devon set off for the kingdom of Russonia to seek the Swirly Tower Tavern, but when they arrived, there was no such place to be found. They searched and searched. They looked around all the corners and in all the cracks. They even asked the locals, who only huffed and grunted and couldn't help at all. No one had ever heard of such a place. I'm not sure what they're referring to here. I've discovered, said Kash, that the Swirly Tower Tavern cannot be discovered. The steel box paper is looking very suspicious. Is that where it was supposed to have come from? I don't have any clue what this is about. It only makes sense, said Duke Devon. Everyone knows King Donald doesn't even drink cherry ginger ale. Oh, that's where they... Okay, got it. That's where they met to collude. Yeah, that's not how it worked, but okay. Kash and Duke Devon hurried back to the land of the free, straight to the king's castle. They had an important meeting to call. All right. All of the heralds and all of the knights filed into the room. The shifty knight stood at the very front. Kash declared, the steel box paper is not true. Wait, is this supposed to be the Steele dossier? Is that what it is? The Steele dossier? There's that document that claimed that Donald Trump was like, that Russia supposedly had a dossier on Donald Trump of him like hiring a prostitute or something in Russia, and they had a bunch of other, I don't know. I'm not even sure what they're referring to here. I mean, this is from 2022. The Steele dossier was just opposition research. It was never assumed to be true. It was never solid information, and it was never even used in the political realm. The steel box paper is not true. We went to Russonia and discovered there's no Swirly Tower Tavern, so now I need to know, do any of you have any reason to believe King Donald cheated in any way? One by one, they all scratched their heads and cleared their throats and said, no, I don't know any reason or any way. Afterwards, I think it's just afterward with no S, but okay. Afterward, Kash followed the shifty knight outside. If you didn't have a reason to believe that King Donald was a cheater, why did you say all those nasty things about him to the heralds? We tried our best to find evidence. Keeper Comey even sent his slugs into the castle to spy on the king, but I don't care that we couldn't find anything. The shifty knight shifted. I just really don't like Donald. Okay. It's like sometimes they rhyme and sometimes they don't. He didn't even put any work into this. I am not originally an author. I don't have any formal English training, but I learned. I put so much time and work into my books, it's ridiculous. I wanted to know how to properly write a book before getting started on it. And as I went through, I changed things, I modified, I updated, I learned. I went through the whole process to make my books, both of them, as good as I possibly could. It's like this dude didn't even try. He didn't even bother. I would wonder if he just hired some other douchebag to write the book for him if it weren't written so poorly. Then the shifty knight ran straight to the heralds. "Heralds," he said, "go forth throughout the kingdom. I have a very good reason to believe that King Donald is a cheater." "What is it?" the heralds asked. "I can't tell you. It's a secret," the shifty knight smiled. "Oh," said the heralds. They all loved secrets. "We'll tell everyone right away." And so they did. All of the people nodded when they heard. They must be right. After all, they have loud trumpets and an important secret. And so everyone agreed that the shifty knight was telling the truth, even though they didn't have any reason to believe him. I don't have any clue what he's even talking about. Like, this is completely fictitious. As he watched all of this happen, the king became sad. "They're still spreading lies," he told Cash. "How will the people ever learn the truth?" Cash sighed. He knew the answer. It was up to him to present the evidence to the people. Well, there's no evidence. That's the thing. You're trying to disprove a negative with this. That's not how logic works, but okay, whatever. Far be it from me to provide logical thought, to inject logical thought into this process. Gathering his courage and all of his evidence, Cash dashed up the stairs that wound around the gold tower, but Hillary and the shifty knight were right behind him. Who is the shifty knight supposed to be? Is that supposed to be Adam Schiff, like Shifty Schiff? I don't know. When Cash reached the top, he paused to tie his wizard shoes. Unfortunately, Hillary and the shifty knight didn't see him stop, and they tumbled over him. Okay. So he's portraying himself taking down Hillary and throwing her into a river without actually being guilty of throwing her in the river. Cash stood up and addressed everybody. "Everybody, I am Cash, the great wizard and the distinguished discoverer. I've discovered that the king, King Donald, is innocent. He did not work with the Roshonians, and he did not cheat. You chose him, so he became king, fair and square." That's just not true, but okay. Hillary wrote that paper and had her sneaky slug slide it into the steel box for the shifty knight to find. Again, not true. Now that you know more of the facts, it's time for you to think carefully and decide what you think of the king. Don't just trust the person with the loudest trumpet. The people paused and considered Cash's speech. "Ah, we shouldn't have believed that the king was a cheater without any proof," they said. Now that they all had the evidence, they clapped and cheered and threw a huge party for their king. The shifty knight tried to say Cash was lying, but the knights of the oval table carried him, Hillary Queenton, and Keeper Comey out of the kingdom, banishing them forever. Okay. Some of the heralds kept spreading the rumor, but they soon grew bored. They moved on to more exciting tales, declaring the sun was made of mustard and would soon drip down and make everything yellow and mustardy. Okay, that's a shot across the bow for climate change, obviously, right? That's not the claim of climate change. That's not the claim that people are making about climate change. This is just sad and disgusting. This is the kind of shit that I would have expected from Julius Streicher. Cash only shrugged. As long as there were people in the land of the free, someone would be trying to spread a ridiculous story. But Cash was satisfied that he knew the truth, and after his proclamation, anyone else who wanted to know what really happened could learn it too. And so, Duke Devon, King Donald, and Cash, the distinguished discoverer, went back into the castle to share a nice meal with no cherry ginger ale. With that, the kingdom was made great again, and from that day on, they lived happily ever after. The end. The true story of Cash Patel and Russiagate. Oh, this is from Brave Books. Yeah, I have a bunch of Brave Books that I've covered. Just, like, really disgusting shit. Let's read the true story of Russiagate real fast, quote unquote. It's ended with "Blessings, Cash Patel," at Cash on Truth Social. Dear citizen of the land of opportunity, after Donald Trump's election in 2016, the liberal media began buzzing about a leaked document known as the Steele dossier. Yeah, the Steele dossier was just opposition research. Nobody actually believed that to be factual. It was just like a possible thing that might have happened, might exist or whatever. Like, he's making a big deal out of something that was never a big deal. The fact that Russia assisted in propagandizing to the American people, thus stealing the election on Trump's behalf, that's real. That is real. That is not pretend. And anybody that denies that lives in a delusion or they're lying. Written by Christopher Steele, the dossier claimed that Trump had colluded with Russia to steal the election. No, that has nothing to do with any of that. I don't give a shit about the Steele dossier. Throw it out. I'm concerned about the fact that Donald Trump worked directly with Russia through a number of people, specifically Roger Stone contacted Russia on his behalf. Guccifer 2.0 was one of the people that the Trump campaign worked with. Donald Trump's campaign got information on Hillary Clinton from Russia through Roger Stone by communicating with Guccifer 2.0. He hacked Hillary's emails and gave them to Roger Stone, and WikiLeaks actually, and WikiLeaks leaked a whole bunch of it. I believe that was the case. Anyway, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence was chosen to investigate this Russia collusion narrative. It wasn't a narrative. And Chairman Devin Nunes asked me, Kash Patel, to lead his team. We conducted our investigation in 3 steps. First, we fact-checked the dossier. Again, the dossier is irrelevant. Nobody cares about the dossier. It was not real, most of it, and everybody knew that. Like, the dossier claimed that Trump hired prostitutes to piss on a bed that Obama was going to sleep on or did sleep on. I don't remember. And it's just like, it wasn't believable. Like, none of that was believable. It was just Oppo research. Trump had a bunch of opposition research similar to that on Hillary Clinton. The dossier is not how anybody came to their conclusions. We came to our conclusions by the fact that the FBI was monitoring Russian agents, known Russian agents, who started getting phone calls from Trump's team, from like Don Jr. and stuff. That rose some red flags. And when they started listening and seeing what was being said, Trump claimed that Obama spied on his campaign. No, dumbass. Your campaign was communicating with known Russian spies who we were already watching. You don't want to be listened to by the FBI? Don't speak to known Russian spies. So they fact-checked the dossier, found significant evidence that several incriminating details could not be accurate. Yeah, agreed. Okay? Second, we followed the money back to the organization that had paid Steele for his report, the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Yeah, it was opposition research. Third, we interrogated over 60 witnesses under oath, none of whom could affirmatively say they had proof that Trump or his administration colluded, conspired, or coordinated with Russia. I can't definitively and affirmatively say under oath that I know that, because I wasn't involved. I wasn't one of the FBI agents sitting there listening to this. Did you interview them? Did you put them under oath to testify to what they heard on the phone? To what Mueller found? Did you get Mueller up there to testify about the fact that Roger Stone spoke directly with Russian hackers? Did you get them up there to talk about how, oh my God, what the hell's his name? Paul Manafort. Did you get them up there to talk about how Paul Manafort is a Russian politician, effectively? And he was like Trump's campaign manager? You got some randos up here to talk about it or whatever. Why would any of them even know anything about it? They wouldn't. The leader of the only false narrative to come out of Russiagate was Adam Schiff, who earned a reputation for promising the media that he had the scoop on how Trump had colluded with Russia, except he couldn't share it because it was classified. Well, it was shared. I don't know what you're talking about. We know exactly how he colluded with Russia, without a shadow of a doubt. Devin and I published our findings in the Nunes memo and declassified the Department of Justice and the FBI's own documents. Immediately, Schiff responded with one meritless claim after another. The mainstream media lapped it up. His own Schiff memo was lauded by journalists who seemed to be looking for the next flashy headline, whether or not it was true. You don't need or not here. Whether it was true. In the years since, it's been a slow and steady fight for justice. Former FBI Director James Comey, his deputy Andy McCabe, and 15 others were fired or resigned for their involvement in misleading a federal court to get surveillance warrants on of Trump World, which were later vacated as a result of our investigation. Again, they were getting surveillance of the Trump campaign because they called known Russian agents and were talking to them. They weren't being spied on by anybody. Why were they calling these people? What reason could they possibly have? I don't even know who these people are. I would have no reason to contact them if I ran for president. Why was he? And in the time since, the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, and the FBI Director, all under oath, admitted Hillary and the DNC did pay Steele for his dossier. Yeah, that wasn't, in question. Everybody knew that. I don't understand why he's saying this. This makes no sense at all. And intentionally misled the court just to investigate a political opponent they never wanted to see in the White House. Nobody intentionally misled anybody. My God, dude, this is how you really spread nonsense right here. Roger Stone's one of the slimiest humans to have ever walked the earth. Yeah, tell me about it. This book is one way I'm doing my part to share the truth. This story cannot be forgotten. I also had the honor of contributing to a documentary, The Plot Against the President, where Devin, Donald Trump Jr., and I, along with several others, told our story in much more detail. I hope you'll do research for yourself so that you can learn the truth about the plot against the king. Blessings, Kash Patel. This is just insane. This is absolutely unglued from reality. I need to pull that documentary up. Maybe I'll watch that at some point on my Unfiltered channel. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy. Sean Foyt is his name. He's like a Christian nationalist nutcase. And he found himself with an opportunity to hold a prayer service or whatever at the Pentagon. And the Capitol and a bunch of other places. Let me introduce you to him if you're unfamiliar. I don't talk about him very often. He also released a video, I can't find it at this moment, where he was complaining about Bishop Buddy, basically asking Trump for mercy for immigrants and LGBT people and all that other stuff. And he basically said that it wasn't a Christian prayer service. It wasn't Christian because she was asking Trump for mercy. Really. Anyway, let me introduce you to him. This clip's from late April 2023.
That's why we get called. Well, you're a Christian nationalist. You want the kingdom to be the government. Yes. You want God to come and overtake the government. Yes. You want Christians to be the only ones that, yes, we do.
Okay. Does it get clearer than that? He wants Christians to be the only ones in government, or the only ones to live in the U.S., I suppose, depending on what you thought he was going to say next. According to Project 2025, I'm reading it on my Unfiltered channel and on my podcast right now. If you're curious, I'm reading the whole thing beginning to end. I think we're in section 1. We're about to hit section 2. We're a few hours into it. Anyway, I haven't gotten to this part yet in it, but I believe that it says everybody's required to belong to a church. Legally required. And you have to attend church services every Sunday. So following logical steps, I'm going to assume that he believes that everybody in the U.S. should be a Christian, not just in U.S. government.
Yes. You want Christians to be the only ones that, yes, we do. We wouldn't be a disciple of Jesus if we didn't believe that. We want God to be in control of everything.
Listen to that stupid laugh he's got. He just keeps doing that. It is so frustrating, just awful.
We want believers to be the ones writing the laws. Yes, guilty as charged.
Yeah, I want believers to be the only ones writing the laws. Anyway, the point is that he's a Christian nationalist, by definition. Jesus said that you should worry about God's kingdom. These people commonly use a verse. I forget what verse it is. Now, maybe it's in Mark, but it basically says, occupy until he comes. And the way that they interpret that is Jesus wants Jesus wants Christians to control the government of the world until he returns. That is not in any way, not even a little bit, close to what the verse was about. It was just a parable told by Jesus about a king that was going off to fight in a war. He gave like 3 of his servants gold. Each one got like 10 pieces of gold or something. And he said, do business with this gold until I return. That's what it says. Do business with, not occupy until I return. Do business with this gold until I return. Like, trade it in the market, make money with it. That's what the verse says. Sean Foyt, Gene Bailey, Lance Wallnau, and, all these other Christian nationalists outright claim the Bible says Jesus told them to occupy the government until he returns. That's not twisting the Bible. That's making up completely. That's just fabricating it out of thin air. That's writing a new Bible book, not reading the previous one. Anyway, that's Sean Foyt, if you were unfamiliar. He knows Pete Hegseth, as it turns out, and he apparently held a prayer service at the Pentagon.
So God is doing amazing things. This is a season where worship is going everywhere in our government, across the nation, here in D.C. I'm at the
you don't need to remind me.
Washington Cathedral, and Pete Hegseth, who's a friend of mine, who's about to become the leader of the Pentagon, the head over the Department of Defense. He just said, Sean, what if we do worship inside the Pentagon? And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So this is just a testimony of encouragement to all of you out there. God is moving in big ways. Can you imagine worship going up from the Pentagon?
Unfortunately, I don't have to imagine.
As a shield of protection over our nation. Thank you, all of you who have been supporting us, have been praying for us. God's moving in big ways, amazing connections, and the best is yet to come.
Just sick. At the Pentagon, let us worship festival, I guess, or let us worship event, prayer service. The founding fathers would be horrified by this. Thomas Jefferson was one of the founders of the Enlightenment movement. There were a few. What were the other ones? I forget. There's one specific one I'm not thinking of. René Descartes. I feel like Voltaire was one of them, but that could be wrong. No, I was right. Actually, yeah, Voltaire was involved too. I didn't realize. He was at least one of the influential intellectuals. Anyway, the founding fathers would be horrified by this. Straight up horrified. Except John Adams. That head would probably enjoy it. Don't get me started on him. Anyway, check out this next clip from Sean Foyt. This one is actually recent also. This is after inauguration. He's talking about Christianity and government, basically.
It's crazy, guys. It's wide open right now. That's the biggest thing I want to express to you, and I hope that you share this. It's like our government has people in it now. I've never seen this and never heard of this before, where worship is being invited in, and the Trump team actually has a faith department.
Brother, Biden was a Catholic, or is a Catholic, I guess. There have always been religious people in government. In fact, the vast majority of people in government are religious by like a mile and a half, are Christians. It's not even close. They're just not imposing it on me. That's the difference. They're not forcing me to follow their dictates, their religious beliefs or whatever. That's the only difference here. Sean Foyt does want to do that.
Where every cabinet member has almost like an intercessor, like a government sanctioned intercessor that's responsible to pray and integrate faith and prayer and decision making into every facet of the government. I mean, it's absolutely unprecedented.
I'm trying not to read into things too much here, but you see in this dude's hat, right? Make America Great Again, except it's not a famously red hat. It's a black hat. Elon Musk was selling black MAGA hats not too long ago. He called them dark MAGA hats, I think. And they were using a font that is famously used in like every neo-Nazi pamphlet that they produce, every neo-Nazi piece of merchandise that they make, all of it uses this font by and large. Elon used it on his dark MAGA hat. It's a little thing, but that's what we call a dog whistle. Most people aren't even going to notice that. They're not going to connect the dots. They're not even going to realize. And if they do realize, they're going to say, oh, that's a coincidence. But the Nazis aren't going to think it's a coincidence. The Nazis are going to be fully aware of what's happening. Now, I don't think that Sean Foyt is a full-blown Nazi. I think, in my personal opinion, I've been kind of thinking over this idea for a while. I haven't written about it yet, but I probably will write about it soon. But it's like a model, a psychological model that I'm kind of working on right now. And it goes like this. People have different ideologies in their heads that they kind of adhere to. I don't think that I have, all right, if you prefer, you can call them moral frameworks. As far as I can tell, I think I only have like one moral framework that I work with that's informed by information as it comes in. But Christianity is its own set, its own prepackaged thing, its own prepackaged moral framework. And when you join the religion, you take on that framework as your primary. Some people have a primary, a secondary, even a tertiary, 3 different moral frameworks that they work within. And I've found that people tend to integrate a little bit of each into their overarching framework, into their whole belief system, right? But when their primary moral framework conflicts with their secondary or their tertiary or whatever, primary always takes precedence. For example, Stu Peters says that he's a Christian. Well, I can't find the clip of Stu Peters, but he says that he's a Christian. He talks about being Christian. He has Christian pastors on all of the time, but he's also a white nationalist, a white supremacist. Jesus was in favor of loving everybody, loving your neighbor and everything else. So how does he kind of grapple with that? The answer is he holds 2 different moral frameworks. His primary is white nationalism or white supremacy, and his secondary is Christianity. He goes with number 2 as often as he can, but if it conflicts with number 1, he defaults to that one instead. Well, yeah, Jesus said love everybody, but I want to get all of the immigrants out, so. And you'll see examples of the 2 moral frameworks blending together sometimes, where they create an entirely new moral framework that people can pick up and put on like a hat. Like, the Bible very clearly says abortion is okay. It's a good thing. Numbers 5:11-23. You should get an abortion if, for example, you think your wife has cheated on you. The priest will perform the abortion. But these people have blended their political ideology with their religious ideology. They're 2 frameworks. They've blended them together, and they've come up with religious justifications for their political positions, even though there is no religious justification. There's no religious justification for opposing vaccines, for example, or abortions. People are submitting religious exemption requests or whatever to the government for gas stoves. They want to own a gas stove in their house. When did Jesus use a gas stove exactly? And where in the Bible, point to the verse where it says, "Then Jesus told them they shall not use induction heating, gas only." It's not in there. They're blending their moral frameworks together. So back to Sean Foyt. Here's the point I'm making. Elon Musk produced hats that use the Nazi font. I believe Elon Musk is a Nazi. I'm super confident of that based on the fact that he gave 2 Nazi salutes behind a presidential seal at inauguration and retweets Nazi all the time. Unbanned a bunch of Nazi accounts when he took over Twitter and bans accounts that are critical of him. So he doesn't have a problem with Nazi speech. He has a problem with your speech. I think that what we're seeing here is Sean Foyt signaling that he supports Elon Musk, at least a little bit, and what he's been up to by wearing a hat that I believe he got from Elon Musk. But I don't think that he is a Nazi, Sean Foyt. I think that he has a Christian moral framework that is prepackaged, blended with white nationalism already. Like Kenneth Copeland's moral framework, I don't know exactly who he picked it up from. Maybe he formed it out. But his moral framework is very much blended together with white nationalism and Christianity, and is now handing that moral framework down to others. I believe that Sean Foyt picked up that framework and put it on and blended it with even more white nationalist rhetoric and nonsense. So maybe white nationalist garbage is number 2 for him. And this hyper-nationalistic Christian moral framework is number one. So looking in from the outside, he's saying and doing a lot of the same stuff that Elon Musk does, Nick Fuentes does, well-known neo-Nazis. Richard Spencer mimicking them. And he may not even know why he's doing it anymore. He may not even realize what the purpose is for opposing immigration. But he stands behind the position anyway because that's part of the prepackaged moral framework that he's using. There is no good reason to oppose immigration. I don't want to go down the road right now, but immigration is phenomenally good for an economy. There is no downside, none. There's only one reason that I know of that people oppose it. Anyway, listen to Sean Foyt in conversation with Mark Driscoll, another far-right Christian nutcase who's picked up the moral framework of Kenneth Copeland by and large, maybe modified it a little bit, and holds white nationalism maybe as a secondary. By the way, this clip is from early October 2024. This is immediately before voting happened in the election.
So do you think that there's any argument to be made for a Bible-believing Christian to support the Harris-Walz campaign?
This is not a hard election. This is not a difficult, complex thing. There's no nuance here. One side wants to cut off body parts of children.
No, they don't.
One side wants to kill babies up until the 9th month of them being in the womb.
No, they don't. Where are you getting this? Where did you come up with this? You got gummy bears in your ears? You're not listening to what people are saying? No, nobody stands for this. Nobody wants this. Roe v. Wade, the thing that he railed against like it was the end of the world, put the line at viability, which is basically like 20 weeks, which I'm happy with. In fact, I feel like 20 weeks is a little bit high, but I'm good with Roe v. Wade as a package because basically nobody got abortions at 20 weeks. The vast majority were between, I think, 8 weeks and 12 weeks or something like that. The vast majority, like before 10 weeks, I don't even remember the stats now, but the only time anybody could get an abortion beyond 20 weeks was if they were going to die. If there's like a medical emergency and the doctor said, this needs to happen now. People aren't getting elective abortions beyond 20 weeks because they weren't allowed to. It wasn't legal and nobody would want to. Why would anybody do that? You know the real answer to that, if Sean Foyt was telling it. Because they're trying to sacrifice to bail. I'm not joking. That's what he believes. The only time you get an abortion past 20 weeks is if, like, there's a medical emergency. Like, you're going to die, or the baby's going to die, or, like, the head is just, like, filled with water. There's no brain. It's just water. Hydroencephalus is what it's called, I believe. This shit isn't happening. But if they told the truth about their position and about the opposition's position, nobody would support anything that they have to say ever again. They must lie to get the public on their side. Like, we don't even have to defend these things that he's saying because they're fictitious.
Cut off body parts of children. One side wants to kill babies up until the 9th month of them being in the womb. One side wants a complete hijacking of the economy with government-controlled food prices, which all...
No, I don't. What are you talking about? Where did you get that? Who told you that? No, nobody has ever advocated for this in the U.S. Nobody of any real significance. Is certainly not in the past 50 years. I mean, it was kind of a weird place 100 years ago, but nobody is advocating for what I assume he's imagining as food ration cards and, kind of a top-down hierarchical, strict control over what people are allowed to eat and stuff. This is delusion. You know what? I don't even think that. I don't think it's delusion. I think it's lies with him. I think he knows what he's doing, in my opinion. And he's doing it intentionally, and he's twisting around because he knows if he told the truth about what he believes, nobody would support it. If he told the truth that he wants to force his religious beliefs on everybody else, and as a secondary moral framework, he also believes that only white people should be able to control the government, only white Christians should be in any positions of power or whatever else, if he said those things out loud to somebody other than a Christian denomination or a Christian church, if he said this to the general public, which is who this is going out to, no one would support it, because this is Mark Driscoll's channel versus his channel where his platform where he said it from a stage earlier.
Kingdom to be the government. Yes. You want God to come and overtake the government.
Like every now and then you catch them basically on a hot mic just telling us what they're shooting for. I come here and I play it for you guys, and he denies, and oh, you misinterpreted. I wasn't giving a Nazi salute. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't believe in that. Deny.
Babies up until the 9th month of them being in the womb. One side wants a complete hijacking of the economy with government-controlled food prices, which always leads to socialism and destruction.
Completely.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking about.
This is not difficult. The fact that pastors and leaders have to even have these conversations shows how deceived the American church is. There's no nuance. There's no difficulty here. It's very easy.
Yeah, I mean, it would be easy if any of the things that he was saying were real. Aside from that, even then it wouldn't be easy, because Donald Trump is a serial cheater. He's been married like 16 times. He sleeps with people regularly who aren't his wife, famous for doing it. He is the symbol of covetousness. Is there a commandment that he hasn't broken? It's not just 10 commandments, it's 613. Is there one of those 613 he has not broken? I doubt it. Maybe do not murder. But even then, really? I don't know. Here's another example of the dude straight up lying, just fabricating information.
Right when you think it can't get crazier and more perverted and demonic out there, the President of the United States tries to cancel Easter and Resurrection Sunday and replace it with Transgender Day of Visibility.
No, that was a lie. That was fake. It was made up. Did he fall for it, or is he perpetuating it intentionally? I think he knows. If people knew what he stood for and what he was doing, they'd never support him again. This video is incredibly telling by Sean Foyt. Just give this a listen, and I'll fill you in a second.
I don't know about you guys. I can't take it anymore. Like, I woke up this morning and I just was thinking, like, God, raise up the Jehus, like, raise up. It talks.
Do you know who Jehu was? I had to look this up just to be super clear on it. Jehu was basically a military leader in Israel that did an insurrection on the government, took control of the government, and forced people not to have freedom of religion. They weren't allowed to practice their religion the way they wanted. They were forced to follow it the way that he wanted them to. I think it was Judaism. It's Old Testament stuff. He was imposing it on them by force. Overthrew the government, became a dictator, imposed religious belief on people. As Joel Webbin says, whether you're going to be a Christian is immaterial to the fact that you're at least going to pretend. You're going to pretend to be a Christian, bare minimum. That's the goal. When they say we are looking for a Jehu, they're not saying we're looking for a particularly godly leader. They're saying we want a dictator that's going to overthrow the current government and impose Christian rule on everybody else.
God, raise up the Jehus, like, raise up. It talks about Jehu, how he was commissioned in a season where Jezebel was reigning supreme and wreaking havoc and terror. And it's like, I don't have to be more obvious than this. You have Ahab, which is the docile, sheepish, leader that abdicates his authority to a wicked woman that is hell-bent on perversion and abortion and Baal.
Dude, I love how he's complaining about things that people were doing back then. And I'm not convinced that Trump hasn't done all of those things. And he's advocating for Trump as like the next leader, the next political and honestly maybe even religious leader. Like, oh my God. Okay, one more time.
that is hell-bent on perversion and abortion and Baal and destruction. And she has smooth lips and tender eyes.
Yep, sounds like my kind of person.
And she's demonic. And it's like, yeah, welcome to 2024. Like, this is happening today. We need the Jehus. We need those that have a mandate to dethrone Jezebel and bring the kingdom. We need you to rise up. We're going to do a massive Jesus march through the streets of the city. We're going to march by the White House, the Supreme Court, the Capitol. We're going to remind all the powers and the principalities that God is not finished writing the story in our nation.
Absolutely psychotic. The guy is advocating for civil insurrection. He's actually advocated for it openly previously too. And obviously, based on the video I showed you at the very beginning, he very clearly only wants Christian rule. He wants everybody else out. This is the exact ideology that Hitler believed in, except it's about a different class of people. Instead of Aryans, it's about his specific version of Christian. It's not even about like Methodists. It's about his version. It's about the version that has inextricably intertwined white nationalism and Christianity as moral frameworks. And now they are like indistinguishable from each other. That's who he wants leading the country. Indistinguishable from Nazism. Tell me what you think in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Alex Jones is defending Elon Musk here. Apparently there's like a Guardian article about him where they put a little kind of, it looks like a Hitler mustache on him. Just give this a listen.
Elon's pro-Israel, not anti-Israel. He's pro-Jew, not anti-Jew. That's known.
I'll talk about that in a minute. That does not mean he's not a Nazi.
And they have no evidence here. They just say Jews are scared. But look at the picture there. You've got the written lies. You've got the loaded question about people are scared.
Wait, what question? There's no question here. I'm not seeing a question. Am I blind?
And then there is a person waving a AFD sign, and all they had to do was pause the video when it went over his nose to give him a Hitler mustache. So,
all right. Now, I personally think that that's kind of a low blow. I don't ever do that. I don't ever clickbait that way on my channel or whatever. The thing is, the way that like TVs and recordings capture frames makes it nearly impossible to get a screenshot that doesn't look absolutely ridiculous. Let me just pull up a video of my own. Okay, wow. I don't like this image of myself because it's before I grew facial hair or anything. Well, let me see if I can jump forward. This is going to bother me, but here you go. Literally anywhere I stop, anywhere, I look ridiculous because of the way that frames are captured. Wow, I look so young there. I look so completely different now. Anyway, the way frames are captured, it creates a buffer frame in between the two frames that it's displaying. And every time you move to a new frame, it's capturing like a new jump in between the two frames. It's hard to find a spot that doesn't look ridiculous. And for that reason, a lot of YouTubers find like top tier, absolutely ridiculous scenes to show like in thumbnails and stuff. I don't do that. I specifically look for places that are not ridiculous looking. But either way, this AFD appearance that he did there, that Elon Musk did, the AFD party is the new Nazi party. The fact that he appeared here is a clear indication that he holds the beliefs of the Nazi party. I don't know how to make this any clearer. Elon Musk is a Nazi. That's just what it is. It's illegal to be a Nazi in Germany, to hold Nazi or to espouse Nazi beliefs. But Elon goes as close up to the line as he possibly can. In fact, the rest of the AFD goes as close as they can to the line, and some of them even cross it and are under investigation as a result today. So I'm not giving there's no quarter for these types of nutcases. I am not lending any grace or credibility to these people. Is it weird to anybody else that Alex Jones defends literal Nazis all the time?
So instead of even attacking him and saying he's Heiling Hitler, now they just put a mustache on him and don't comment on it, knowing that most people are so unconscious still, even though they might be partially awake to being lied to, they don't realize how much they're being lied to. And that's subliminal messaging. So
I don't know if that's... I don't know. I mean, they're just waving flags. I suppose it could be. I suppose that could be intentional. Either way, he's a Nazi, so I don't know what to tell you. If you don't want to be like... If you don't want a Hitler stash put on you, don't espouse Nazi beliefs.
The globalist corporate media runs subliminal message campaign to associate Elon Musk with Hitler.
Oh my God, dude. This subliminal message campaign thing, this drives me nuts. Subliminal messaging is not, it doesn't work that way. The thing that Alex Jones is thinking of is probably NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming doesn't really work. And it's amoral. It's just like... People use it for like really bad things sometimes to like manipulate people into stuff. Anyway, it really doesn't work to any degree. It's like, for example, you ever heard the term negging, where you're like being negative towards somebody, trying to make them feel bad about themselves so that they'll sleep with you? That's an example of neuro-linguistic programming. You're just being a complete scumbag to take advantage of people. That's it. It doesn't really work as effectively in this form, in like video form. Implications certainly work for the purpose of like dog whistles and things. But, you know, putting this little stash over top of Elon, it doesn't work that way. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, let's continue. Oh, I'm sorry. And one more thing I forgot to mention about Elon Musk being like... pro-Jewish and pro-Israeli. A Zionist is somebody that supports Israel controlling the Middle East. And that's pretty much been the definition for like ever, right? In the 30s, Zionists, Jewish Zionists, made a deal with Hitler to force the Jews out of Europe and into Palestine. They worked with Hitler. And you know why they got along so well, the Zionists and the Nazis? Because they're the exact same ideology directed at different people groups. Nazis believe Aryans are the ideal specimen of a man. They're supermen. They're strong. They're smart. They're powerful. They're the best in the world. They deserve everything. Jewish Zionists in that region that made the deal with Hitler, they believe that about Jewish people. It's an ultra-nationalist, extremist belief system. And ultra-nationalist belief systems get along pretty well, often. So being pro-Israel does not mean you're not a Nazi. In fact, being ultra-nationalist, you very well may be a Nazi and a Zionist. There are a lot of Christian Zionists because they believe that Jesus needs to appear there in Israel when he comes back. Israel must belong to the Jews before Jesus can return. Anyway, this is not a cover. It's not a protection. It's not the win that Alex Jones thinks it is.
Run subliminal message campaign to associate Elon Musk with Hitler.
The government fears Alex Jones, who has the largest audience in the...
The government fears Alex Jones. All right, let's jump forward. Here we go.
AFD speak.
Again, AFD, new Nazi party.
Fears for security of Jews worldwide in wake of Elon Musk AFD speech. Now, look at this article. What do you see there in the photo they've got?
Yep, okay, we get it. They put a little Hitler mustache over him or whatever. Made it look like he had a Hitler mustache.
Well, it's...
Again, like he's implying it's neuro-linguistic programming. That's just not how it works. It's just not.
Elon, Saturday on a Jumbotron speaking to AFD, which is the preeminent, growing, winning, just Trumpist party, not even as conservative as Trump.
They're the Nazi party. It's the new Nazi party. I can't believe that he's like even defending this. It's just disgusting. He had this whole debate with Nick Fuentes over whether Hitler was a good guy. And like, what a debate to have, right? But okay, he was surprisingly anti-Hitler. Why is he going down this road now? I don't understand.
They're more Ron Paulish, really. I've looked at their policies, and Listen to their leaders. They've been around.
They're Nazis.
For decades. So, Elon's pro-Israel, not anti-Israel. He's pro-Jew, not anti-Jew. That's
irrelevant.
Known. And they have no evidence here. They just say Jews are scared. But look at the picture there. You've got the written lies. You've got the loaded question.
What loaded question are we talking about? There is no loaded question here.
People are scared. And then there is a person waving a AFD sign. And all they had to do was pause the video when it went over his nose to give him a Hitler mustache.
Now, I think that I can't tell if this is news or commentary part of the website. I probably wouldn't have done that personally. I agree that that's, a little bit underhanded. But again, neurolinguistic programming does not exist. Alex Jones is convinced it does. At least it's not as effective as he thinks.
Now, they don't say, oh, look, he looks like Hitler here. They don't say, oh, his gesture. Oh, I just did it too. From his heart to everybody, it's Hitler. When they have all the Democrats, everybody else doing that human gesture. Hulk Hogan doing it. It's not Heiling Hitler. So instead of even attacking him and saying he's Heiling Hitler, now they just put a mustache on him and don't comment on it, knowing that most people are so unconscious still, even though they might be partially awake to being lied to, they don't realize how much they're being lied to. And that's subliminal messaging.
Yeah, like Joe Rogan has mentioned this. I think he's a complete sack of shit, but this is a good object lesson in how the press works. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Every time CNN talked about him for years, they had a picture of him in the thumbnail at a fight where he was sticking his hand up pointing at something. They always used that image of him, and it gave people a very specific perception of what type of person he was. The media does that. It's a sign of the media looking for clickbait, doing everything they can to get like a clickbaity title, clickbaity story or article or whatever. That's not good. I don't believe that should happen. But, if you want unclickbaity stories or news outlets or whatever, go with AP News. Go with Reuters. They're fantastic. I never get clickbaity stuff like that.
It's right at the consciousness level. So let's pull up the actual article, not just overhead shot and not just the image. There it is. Now imagine somebody goes to that and first thing your subconscious thinks is that's Hitler.
There is a ton of evidence of him being a Nazi. His personally espoused beliefs. He's said it. He's said things on the twit that clearly indicate that he is a Nazi. I mean, I've already gone through how he's a Nazi. I don't need to go through it again on other videos, but he's a Nazi. It could not possibly be clearer. This is not unfairly misrepresenting him.
Germans, stop living in a guilt complex. It's how the left controls you. You didn't support Hitler. You're not Hitler. You deserve to have your voting rights and your speech rights and your energy rights and not have Islamicists and others murdering and killing you. 80% of the violent crime plus being, 5, 6, 7, 8 giant stabbings of babies and baby strollers. I mean, that's what
Yeah, I don't think any of this is true that he's laying down for us here, but okay, whatever.
Crazies to the target. I mean, you see it all the time, every day. And so here they are with their image. It's a real image. They can say, well, technically it's a photo we took with an establishment photographer there, and then they went and paused it with someone waving their arm with a sign to make him Hitler. So it's not just The Guardian. They're all doing it. So globalist corp.
They're not all doing it. No, that's not true. Reuters doesn't do that shit. AP News doesn't do that shit. There are a ton of news organizations that don't do that. This is the exception to the rule, not the rule.
Corporate media runs subliminal message campaign to associate Elon Musk with Hitler.
And the lesson that all of Alex Jones's listeners are going to derive from this is that all mainstream media is trying to control your mind. They're brainwashing you. This is brainwashing. That's delusion.
And they ran the image all over the place. And I looked, when I saw this morning, I went and looked. I didn't see anybody, maybe they are now, pointing out how ridiculous this is. Now, let me give you another example. So see, that's what I do. And I've been doing this for 40 years, but really I've been dialed up for 31 in April on air. That'll be the anniversary.
By the way, don't let him pretend that he doesn't do this exact thing right here. He does this exact thing. He has done this exact thing before. I believe he's even been sued for it.
That when I look at things, I'm looking for what they're hiding, and I see it. And it's not like I'm a schizo, that sees the Virgin Mary in a piece
of
burnt toast, or I see giraffes in clouds. No, I mean, I see what they're pushing, what the image is, and you catch it instantly. And I saw this an hour before the show, and I thought, certainly someone's picked up on this, and no one was pointing out, look at this photo, look what they're doing, look at the headline, look at it, all is one message, he's Hitler. Just like last week when, this dark money group's attacking RFK Jr. with fake doctor signatures in a petition.
Okay, I don't know that story, but you think that RFK Jr. is qualified to be in this field? Do you really believe that? Do you think that there aren't a billion doctors out there ready to contest RFK Jr.'s, claims?
Said, surely people know that's Bill Gates' group. No one knew it. So see, it's not that I'm that smart. It's that this is what I do. And that's why this broadcast is valuable and why you're valuable to boost it and get it out to people. Now, there's a famous meme that's on screen that shows how by manipulating an image, by either cropping it or only showing part of it, you can deceive people. And Elon posted on X today about the next article I'm going to show you that, wow, they actually made the meme reality. I'm going to pull up the HD of this, but here is Mark Andreessen pointing it out. New York Magazine accusing others of cruelty is like Stalin accusing others of running poorly maintained jails.
Wait, one more time?
Andreessen pointing it out. New York Magazine accusing others of cruelty.
New York Magazine? I have no idea who that is or why you'd be talking about him or whatever.
Is like Stalin accusing others of running poorly maintained jails. And it's an image of...
Well, I just want to point out that it doesn't matter what New York Magazine is doing or whatever. It doesn't matter who has bad jails. You can still criticize the people who are contributing to the problem. Yeah, the U.S. would be hypocritical if they said China had bad jails. But does China have bad jails? We should certainly think about that, right?
Of a Republican Trump party cropping a group of white men and women, young people, and then they don't show you that there are black people right out of the shot.
I have no idea if this is real, but Alex Jones should be able to acknowledge that the top 1% is almost, let me rephrase, the top 1% has almost no black people in it. He can acknowledge that, right? So I don't care if the image is accurate. The idea behind it is accurate. I don't even know what this image is of. Nobody knows what this is an image of. It's irrelevant what the image is of. It's the concept behind it they're trying to communicate. It's a totally fair image, if it's even real.
Now, again, that is the most classic form of deception you can engage in. And that's what they do. And there's many other forms.
Whoever they is.
The internet did not believe Sandy Hook happened because of a lot of weirdness.
Here we go.
The internet didn't believe it day one. Months into it, I looked at it a few times, did a few segments on it, said, yeah, this looks weird. Then years and years and years later, I get kicked off the internet. Never mentioned that it had to do with Sandy Hook because it didn't.
Wow. Dude is readdressing Sandy Hook. Oh my God, I got to write this down. It wasn't just him saying, I don't know, this looks a little bit weird, like everybody else on the internet at the time. First of all, almost nobody was saying that on the internet. It was this weird little pocket of nutcases who were like a dog with a bone. They couldn't let it go. And Alex Jones was leading that charge and is directly responsible for some of the parents checking out, for having to move multiple times. He didn't just get punitive damages, like punishment for what he did. He had to pay them compensatory damages for all the money they spent moving and stuff to hide from his little nutcases. So I don't want to hear it. Again, Alex Jones wouldn't let this go, and he talked about it for years. Yeah, the cases took forever to go through the court system. That's the nature of legal cases. That doesn't mean that it's like fake or something.
Elon Musk pointed that out when they told him, hey, Tucker Carlson told me, he didn't get kicked off the internet for Sandy Hook, like they say. It was other stuff. He went and looked at the logs of all my posts ever and said Sandy Hook wasn't even there. But they said I made my living off of it. I was the Sandy Hook man. I killed the kids.
Nobody said you killed the kids, but you absolutely got famous, or got more famous for talking about it, and talked about it all the time. And your entire network talked about it. You even got a dude on that doxed the families.
Nobody knows Adam Lanza's name. And then they raised money with Bloomberg's gun control group for years, saying he's attacking families, attacking kids, they're attacking their houses, they're peeing on their graves. None of that ever happened. I didn't even send anybody, but they couldn't even find anybody that did any of that.
I have no idea what he was talking about now, but his whole claim was that this was a staged event to try to convince people to get rid of, or to do gun control, to get rid of guns. Next step was Obama going door to door, taking people's guns. That was his claim. And did that happen? No. He just hurt a bunch of innocent people who'd suffered terribly.
On the stand, my lawyer's like, anybody ever pee on the grave? No, I just heard about it. Who told you? I don't know. Okay, well, who came to your house? I don't know. I just heard about it. Well, who told you? I don't know.
That's not how lawyers work. They come in with evidence if they state things in court like that. They have to have evidence for that. So, just bullshit.
Alex Jones ever say your name? No. 130 million. Already found guilty by the judge. Jury told this man's guilty. Decide how much money he's got. They get up. He's worth hundreds of millions he got from them. The jury's like, you son of a bitch.
He got a fair trial. That's just what it is. It was a trial that spanned years. There were people on that jury. His lawyer had the option of cutting anybody from the jury that he didn't want on there. It's called voir dire. Could cut him for any reason or no reason at all. They looked at him funny. They cut him. That's how it works. And now you're complaining about the jury. Give me a break. This is your fault. Dude still can't take responsibility all these years later.
So that's how this works, people. And then they stalk me. They raise money off me for years. And I'm like, hey, I think it happened. Leave me alone. Before they were raising money off me or attacking me, I'd already said, no, I think it happened.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant if you, quote unquote, think it happened. Your audience doesn't because you told them it didn't. And now these little nutcases are following them around.
But that's how this works. And AP can't even get it right. It's 1.3 plus billion because the court cut 150 million out or whatever.
This is what Alex Jones does. Right here, what he's doing, he had multiple court cases that he lost. One was a default judgment because he didn't show up. That was the $1.3 billion one. This $473 million one, I think this was either from a different, this is from a different judgment for sure. But it was either from compensatory or punitive damages. I don't remember. This is just like, this was the judgment, and things are added on top of it after the fact. This isn't them being incorrect. This is correctly reported. He just wants to destroy the credibility of AP News, which is one of the most credible outlets out there.
How this works, and AP can't even get it right. It's 1.3 plus billion because the court cut 150 million out or whatever. It doesn't matter. I've never had $10 million in the bank.
Yeah, nobody ever has $10 million in the bank. Look at how like deceptive this weasel is, really. Nobody has $10 million in the bank. You know why? The value of money changes every single day. It shifts. Inflation goes up. Deflation happens from time to time. You can't rely on the value of money to stay the same. So rich people put their money into assets that raise in value over time, along with like the value of money, like property or stocks or whatever. If it's sitting in a bank, it's burning a hole in your pocket. It's doing nothing. You should be doing something with it. Money generates money. And if it's just sitting in a bank, it's generating nothing. So the point is, Alex Jones is being deceptive here. And it's like, it's low. He can't just like come out and tell us the honest facts of the situation.
So it's why I laughed when they had the verdict in Connecticut at 1.5 billion. And then they said, Your Honor, that's not enough. We want 2.76 trillion. If you're a new listener and think I'm joking, just type in Alex Jones, it's 2.75. Yeah, there's Bloomberg and all of them. So they didn't suggest, they asked for it. The Bloomberg headline gets it right.
What is the News Times? I've never heard of the News Times before. He broke a state law barring the sale of products using false statements. Jones filed a request with the court on Friday for a new trial, arguing that Judge Barbara Bellis's pretrial rulings resulted in an unfair trial, substantial miscarriage of justice. It seems to me that they're just trying to make sure that he pays for the rest of his life, like everything that he has. I don't think, like, they know that he doesn't have 2.75 trillion. Like, there are no trillionaires in the world.
So that's the GDP, by the way, of India. So this is just Wizard of Oz when we're not scared of him. He just turns up the sound, I am the great and powerful Oz. And people just hear, remember, thousands of articles a week, hundreds of TV programs. Alex Jones hurts kids. Alex Jones attacking kids. I have people all the time in the street go, you son of a bitch, you killed those kids. And I would just say,
okay, nobody thinks that you killed those kids. Literally not one human being on planet Earth, okay?
To him, I go, I killed him, really? Yeah, I'll beat your ass. You're like, you're mentally ill. Sandy Hook family seek $2.75 trillion from Alex Jones.
Like, how long ago was this anyway? This is October 2022. I'm only seeing one report from The Independent. I didn't even see that from the Bloomberg report. Oh, I see. They reached that number by multiplying the state's laws up to 5,000 per violation fine by the 550 million social media exposures. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, I think they were just trying to make sure that, like, he paid for the rest of his life.
So that's just a more advanced form of this, where they just ran article after article after article after article after article after article. And almost every guest we were going to have on during those years before they even sued me would say, I'll come on your show, including Ron Paul, but don't bring up Sandy Hook. And I'd go, I didn't talk about it for 3 years before they sued me. In evidence, they only introduced 22 minutes of me talking about it ever.
Of him talking about it ever. Maybe. I don't even believe that's true, but he wasn't the only one talking about it on his network. Owen Schroyer also talked about it on his network a lot. Bunch of other people talked about it on his network. He was famous for it. He was leading the charge on it. And he's probably spent more time talking about it now than, well, maybe not 20 minutes. He spent like at least 5 minutes on this subject so far. So I don't know what he's going on about. He thinks he's only spoken about it for 20 minutes? Where'd you get that number?
Come on, you're talking about it. I see it.
He's literally talking about it now.
They attached themselves to me and to Trump when Trump won 8 years ago.
Dude, how did we end up here from Elon Musk is not really a Nazi or whatever? Did he just, does he leverage every subject into an opportunity to talk about how victimized he is or something? Like, what's going on?
They raised money off me for years. Then they had me found guilty by judges in show trials.
They were not show trials. They were trials from a jury of your peers that you got to cut if you wanted.
And they think you're stupid. I know you're not stupid, but cropping a photo, it'd be okay of a Trump event, just so happen to have a bunch of white people at it. It's okay for, a black church to be a bunch of black people, right? But no, it's a bunch of black people all around them, and they crop the photo.
Yeah, again, I don't know what this event is, but you have to acknowledge that statistically, it is almost all white people around Trump or at the top, right?
To deceive everybody.
I don't think that's a deception. I don't even know if this is real. I don't know why I'm even playing into it.
And they don't like the fact that Elon is exposing it and said they literally did this meme. And then he posts under it the story so you can see the deception for yourself. And that's what they don't like, because none of it makes sense when you actually know what they're doing and they're the liars. Like here, oh, look, he's Hitler. And then the whole corporate media doesn't point out the dirty trick they just did there because they're all in on it. The good news.
The corporate media is all in on it, using this as an opportunity to point the finger at literally everybody. Nobody is trustworthy except for Alex Jones. Really?
Is almost no one buys any of their crap anymore.
Anyway, tell me what you think about this in the comments. This dude is a shameless liar. Like, every word out of his mouth is a misrepresentation to some degree. He lies for a living, literally lies for a living. It's just sad. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.